Today's episode is brought to you by Altoids because, let's face it, navigating the dating world isn't easy, but with Altoids, your breath will be stronger than the urge to text
you up at 1 a.m. More intense than a rose ceremony and more reliable than your bestie's questionable dating tips.
Like, do the simple things. Make sure that you have fresh breath wherever you go, and you got to do it with Altoids. Altoids is your sidekick in dating. Do yourself a favor and make sure that you have fresh breath. There is no bigger turnoff than stale, stinky, rotten breath.
It's also so easy because I feel like with gum, you always either, hey, I've like a wrapper you got to throw away, or you're like the gum gets nasty and you're like, where can I throw this gum away? With an Altoid, it's just so easy to throw in your bag, so easy to just dissolve in your mouth, chew it up, fresh breath immediately.
Altoids is the strong, reliable, and intense boost of freshness that young professionals and single minglers need to be their authentic selves in daily life. When walking into a high-stakes moment, if you have Altoids, your breath is one less thing you have to think about. When it comes to needing confidence and security to show up as your original self, Altoids has you covered.
They're not just mints, they're curiously strong mints.
Find Altoids in the checkout aisles. Grab your tin today.
There's a lot of decisions you have to make when you have a baby. And the one that I feel the most comfortable and safe making is using Huggies for our daughter, River. The new Huggies Skin Essentials are here. A brand new dermatologist-approved line of diapers, wipes, and pull-ups training pants are all designed with baby's sensitive skin in mind.
Their wipes have zero harsh ingredients for a great, gentle clean.
The Skin Essentials diapers features the Skin Protect liner, which is what helps take care of the ick and stick that can cause rash.
Their whole diaper helps protect against the top two causes of rash by managing moisture and runny mess. Pull-Up Skin Essentials has got your big kid covered too with a training pant that is ultra soft and breathable to help protect sensitive skin throughout potty training. Learn more at Huggies.com. Once again, head to Huggies.com to learn more.
You're crazy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files Ask Nick edition. I'm your host, Nick, joined by the household. We got Scooter, we got Sweet Boy Justin. We have a lot to get into. We got some great calls lined up for you. But before we do, we got some things to talk about. First of all, I am curious. I know I went on a whole, I'm worried about men of the future, and we were talking about dating and holding people accountable and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm curious what the feedback was on some of that.
Yeah, I mean, split once again, but definitely more skewed toward, well, women have been through this for centuries and centuries and centuries. So there was actually one comment that I pulled that I agree with. She said, women have been paying the price of men's actions since the beginning of time. We've been told we are inferior to men our whole lives, but Nick is worried about young men hearing the truth about how men treat women. Maybe young men will actually learn and think, wow, I don't want to be like these awful men. It's funny how we're so worried about men, but never worried about how women are in danger every day and having our rights and autonomy taken away from us.
Okay.
That being said, there's also comments where people are like, I really agree a lot with what Nick is saying.
I mean, I agree with both comments.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it's just more that, which is kind of my point. It's like, can we recognize some, or maybe a lot of men's misbehavior towards women? Can we recognize the plight of women throughout history while still recognizing things that are going on in real time with a certain group of men? You know, does it have to be one or the other? Is it always like, shut up and take your beating? Which is like, for myself, I'm good. You know, I know how I feel confident how I behave. I hope that I can mentor, I guess, any kind of men or young men that are interested in mentorship in terms of how I think they should conduct themselves and their character. As someone who's now a father of a daughter who I don't know who she's going to choose to date or what her sexuality, her sexual orientation. But if she grows up to want to date men, I have concerns for how they're being raised. I'm not saying we shouldn't educate young men about how they should treat women. I think I had great role models, both from my mom and my dad, about how to treat women. I mean, specifically my mom. My mom had dealt with a lot of past childhood trauma and experiences from men. And so I have vivid memories of growing up and my mom sitting me down and telling me point blank what her expectations of me were, of how I should treat women in general, my sisters, all those things, and so that's how I learned, right? I think we should and can continue to do that. I think there's a difference between doing that and it being a free-for-all online, bashing men in general, and not discerning any difference between, older men or men who do misbehave or some men not at all. And I don't think it's okay just because of how people have acted over history to make young, impressionable people of any gender. I don't think 14-year-old boys are capable of understanding who people are targeting and what they're talking about online. So when they hear how men just suck or they're terrible and it's all men, they're going to include themselves. And it has nothing to do with me saying that isn't dismissing what's happened or is happening with anyone who is being misbehaved or treated. And I guess that's the frustration I have, is for all the comments on there where people immediately make accusations like, this sounds like you're just defending men, and what about women and their plight, I feel like we do a pretty good job in general on this show of recognizing the misbehaving men out there. We have mostly women callers. We're very candid about what we think about some of these men, but I do think we can do both. I think we can do both.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we are so resistant to that. And again, also recognize that everything I talk about on this show, all the lessons I talk about are through my lived experience. And I am a man who's only dated women. And I think I love women in general. Now, if I were to have, I think, some of the POV that some of our listeners have, I could be one of those guys who has a negative opinion about the people I've dated. If I wanted to, I could lump in all women, which I don't think would be fair or right to do, but my only experience of dating is from women. And I have been hurt by many of them. I've made choices and I've made mistakes and I've had to learn from those mistakes, but there's also things that they did, and I think they could have done differently or better, and so I think there are a lot of men out there who also have been hurt by misbehaving women or women who didn't care about their feelings or had their own selfish needs in mind. It's not just one direction. And I think we have to remember that at times. I think if you're someone, unless you're bisexual and you have experience with dating both men and women, if you are out there and you're dating and you've dealt with heartbreak or misfortune or people, not protecting your heart, when you are incapable of setting your own boundaries, you're going to have a strong opinion about that one gender, and I think, it'd be easy just to start hating them all, but like, where does that get us? And I guess that's kind of my point. And if you are a heterosexual woman who wants to date men, don't you want good men to date? Don't you want quality men to date? Don't you want men who are capable of demonstrating healthy masculinity and healthy boundaries and have that respect for you and the people you know?
I think that recognizing that two things can be true at once is really important, because like, I'm having a boy, I'm going to raise a son, and something that I want to instill in him is like, this is something to recognize, is that this is something that women have been receiving and still are receiving today. Like, in the workplace, for example, I have been at jobs where I have had the exact same job as a man and I was paid less for it. Like, these are still things that are happening today that women, it's like all women, right? So it's not like, oh, just one woman wasn't such a good employee, but it's like all women are going to, you know what I mean? So it's
what do you
like,
mean by when you say all women? Like, I don't
like
think
all women
are,
no, like in certain,
like not
the same
here.
way that you're, no, not here, but I'm saying like what you're explaining, how you've dated a lot of women and some of them have done wrong to you or, right? You're not lumping all women together.
Correct. Yeah.
But I think that throughout time and even now, a lot of people are still doing that for women and for men. So I think it's
easier to generalize. I think it's easy to victimize yourself and like have a long, like you could be someone who, again, if, it's not like the caller we had last week who wanted to slide into a DM of an NHL player.
Mm-hmm.
This was someone who, like, at first it seemed like a call that was very much like, I just want to, it was fun. I want to slide in this DM as an NHL player. I don't care. And what it turned out to be a call of someone who was very open about like some of their past pain and trauma with their past relationships and their inability to not even enforce their boundaries, but set them to begin with, making themselves very vulnerable to repeating a pattern that has really hurt them in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been that person. Again, we've all been that person. I think a lot of people listen to this show because it's hard to do this stuff. I always say it's easy in theory. It's easy in theory, hard in practice. We're not talking about very complicated things, but in the moment when we're triggered, when we're vulnerable, it's very hard to execute enforcing boundaries and things like that. So it's very easy to put ourselves in situations where we get very hurt. And so now we can have multiple experiences with, say, one gender, and that, maybe we can have 5 different situations with men or women, depending on who we're dating, and allowing us to have a very negative opinion about that group of people.
Yeah, I just think it's important to recognize, and when we're raising our kids and when we're, having these conversations, is to instill in people that, like, this is something that has happened over time. This is, you can acknowledge the fact that women have been mistreated for many, many years by past generations of men and men today still. But that's not a reflection of who you are, and all you can do is be better.
I think it's important to recognize your history. I really do, obviously, which I feel like we have, right? Like we've acknowledged, I think often, no one here has debated in this episode or the last week's episode when discussing this topic, that over the course of history, for a long time, up until very recently even, it's been very one-sided when it comes to the women have been treated by men and vice versa, right? And that's important to acknowledge. And we can always acknowledge that. But I think we need to be allowed to have these conversations sometimes. And I think especially now, we need to be able to have a conversation. If something is going on that's like negatively, like what's going on right now is that, young men are committing suicide 4 times the rate of young women. That's a problem. And we should be able to talk about the why without the first response being, yeah, but like women had to endure X, Y, or Z, and do you know your history? Because again, history is important, but history always also can be weaponized. And it can be weaponized when we use our history to basically devalue or dehumanize an entire group of people. It's not okay what like a lot of men my age or older or throughout history have done and how they've treated women. It's not okay. But it's not okay to dehumanize men in general and lump them all together as a group of people and talk about how bad they are, how much they suck. Because when we do that, like terrible things can happen. You start weaponizing history. An extreme example, we've talked about this, is anti-Semitism. When people are anti-Semitic, they feel very justified in their points of view. To get an anti-Semitic person talking about Jewish people, and they'll tell you all the reasons why they think why they think they're justified to have a certain point of view when it comes to Jewish people. And you know what they talk about? History. All the fucking time. That doesn't make it okay. That's fucking crazy. When people are racist, the racist people feel validated with their points of view and their experiences of people of those race. Doesn't lump them all together. And just because some of us have had bad experiences with the other gender doesn't mean that all men are bad. And when we start saying things like all men are bad and all men suck, then we start diminishing their value as humans, literally. And that's a dangerous precedent to set. And again, like bad things are currently happening right now to men, young men. Again, look at the suicide rate. And are we just going to immediately dismiss it and scoff because like it's been so bad for so long, on the other side? Or can we still have a conversation about maybe the overcorrection that's happened and how it is affecting young men right now?
Yeah, I think the scariest part of what you just said is that throughout history, we haven't been able to have these conversations that will fix the problems that we've had historically. It's just a matter of like sitting down with somebody, sharing each other's perspectives and communicating appropriately And we haven't been able to do that historically because we're not learning from our mistakes.
Yeah, because we're never willing to have like these nuanced conversations about, it's always like, yeah, but you did this. Yeah, but like, well, what about like, it's like, wait, okay, fine, let's talk about that. But like, there's no appetite for any conversation whatsoever currently right now, if like that anything could be happening negatively towards men because of the history, and I just don't understand. I don't think that's productive. And again, my biggest point has nothing to do, like, I'm not advocating this for me. I'm not complaining. I have a great life. I have no complaints about life for me or, but I'm most concerned not about young men. I'm concerned for my daughter. I don't have a son yet. I don't know if I ever will, but I do have a daughter. And there's a decent chance she might grow up to want to date men. And I'm very concerned about her prospects. And for all the people out there being like, well, I know a young man and he's fine. Okay, great. But again, if you look at the stats and if you look at our society as a whole, there is a growing epidemic of disenfranchised young men. And if we're so unwilling to have these conversations, then those disenfranchised young men, if you're an 18-year-old man or a young man and 20-year-old man, and you go and say, hey, it's just like, honestly, it just feels like I understand that I want to be an ally and I recognize that men have had their time. I get that, but I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little like I'm just everywhere I go. I'm always kind of told to shut up or sit down and you don't know what you're talking about. And then let's say they're going to someone, I don't know, a friend or girlfriend or, anyone. And they are, again, you know what? Fuck you. It's not your time. You know who they turn to? Your Andrew Tates. That's how people get radicalized because no one listens to them. They're told that their opinions don't matter.
Yeah.
So like, do we want the young men of this generation to be listening to us? People who care about positive masculinity. Do you want them to listen to, instead of saying all men suck, which they don't, like be someone who's willing to have a conversation with more young men about how to behave properly. Because if they don't think you'll listen, if they don't think you're willing to have a conversation, if they don't think you're willing to hear them out, they're going to find someone who will. And there's a lot of radical, toxic, bad men out there who are willing to take those disenfranchised men in and make them even more radical and more toxic and have more negative opinions towards women than they already do.
Which is like a scarier level to it.
Yeah.
Correct.
I don't know if this is just makes me think of back when my dad passed away. I had very little patience for anybody who would complain to me about anything like after that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's nothing. Like, after what I just experienced, like I just had, and it was a subconscious thing. Like I wasn't trying to be rude. I just like, and I wasn't being outwardly rude. It was just, I was finding it very difficult to empathize with people about their problems because I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, you don't even know. It's just so important to keep in mind that like everybody is going through something. And the only way that we're ever going to grow as a society is to listen to other people and to empathize with other people and to have discussions and be open to hearing what other people have to say.
Totally. And I'm sure if you're listening to this and you're a woman who's like on their 6th fuckboy and you've been cheated on 3 guys, or maybe your partner has been emotionally abusive or physically abusive, I can appreciate what that me, saying, hey, like I'm worried about some guys out there might be a little frustrating when you first hear it, but like it's not necessarily just about you or anyone, but the facts are, whether you want to believe it or not, there's something bad going on with young men right now. And unless we do something about it and we're willing to have those conversations and we're willing to consider that us as a whole, as a society, we can stop having conversations where it's just like, shut up, sit down, it's not your time, it's payback time. How can we be more inclusive? How can we be more understanding for everyone, including the straight white men out there, and just have and have our goal to not try to minimize anyone, because life is never going to be fair for any of us.
Yeah, it should never be about revenge. It should never be about like, well, it happened to me, so it has to happen to you. Like, the only way we're going to progress is if everybody is just okay with, okay, it sucks that this happened and is still happening, but this is a separate issue.
Yeah. Two things can be true at the same time, and you have to be willing to have these conversations. And if your answer to everything is always bringing up a history lesson because you don't want to have a conversation about what's going on now, then I don't think we're going to get very far as a society.
Yeah, it's a matter of how you use the history. You have to use it to learn from it rather than to use it as like, well.
And when you say things like all of anything, like it's sexist. I'm sorry, it just is. We shouldn't be allowed to lump any group of people all into one and like make sweeping judgments about their character, who they are, how they act. We shouldn't be doing that about any group of people, whether they are historically disenfranchised or historically have been in advantageous positions, because things can flip on their head over the course of time. May not happen in 1 year or 2 years or 5 years, but 100 years.
Yeah. Generalizations are harmful.
Yeah.
100%.
Society in general has spoken in generalizations.
Yes.
And it's resulting in like men who radicalize, and then women who are fear the men that are radicalizing, but also like the need to speak up for women, vice versa. So like it's a fault of the conversation.
Yeah, well, we're at least trying to have it. So thank you for engaging with us, whether you agree or disagree. We appreciate all comments, and hopefully we can continue these productive conversations. I do think they're important, and I think they're enlightening. I hope
Very important,
I hope we all at least appreciate having the conversation.
Yeah.
I posed a question, and we don't have to spend too much time on it because I know we have to get to our callers, but I was thinking the other night about, listen, we've all been through our shit, everything's relative, but I've had some hard times, relationships. I've had some moments where I felt like I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to survive this. I've had some really dark thoughts about, how I felt my heart was treated, or, and yada, yada, yada. And I've also, like, whether it's through athletics or being on special forces, I've realized that I have an ability to deal with discomfort. Like, I have a high tolerance for discomfort, both emotional pain and physical pain. So I was wondering myself if there was a correlation. I posed that question to my Instagram audience. The feedback was interesting. We did get a lot of DMs from people identifying as like professionals in like neuropsychology, or I didn't fact check that, but a lot of the people who did claim to be in that field did suggest that studies have been done saying that there is a correlation between both physical and emotional pain. A lot of people were like, what do you mean by emotional pain? How do you define that? I guess I would, emotional pain, like heartbreak, right? A heartbreak would be a great example of emotional pain. And emotional pain tolerance, I think other people wanted to define that. To me, emotional pain tolerance would be like anything. Like, how do you respond to that pain? There's a difference between feeling that pain and then sinking into like a deep depression and having very destructive negative thoughts. One, could be as extreme as, some people experience severe emotional pain and take their own life. That's a very extreme and unfortunate reality of emotional pain. That people with physical pain have taken their own life, right? Some people might sink into a depression. Some people, more like less severe but more common, would be just kind of like not being able to get over something because, we're letting our egos trigger us, and we kind of sit in that pain because that pain is the only thing we have of these relationships, and then physical pain. But like emotional, and then I had the thought of, can you get better at pain tolerance? I suppose you can, right? The more pain you,
there are like breathing
sitting,
techniques, and...
like take an ice plunge for the first time. Ouch, painful. 10 seconds, you're out. Do that 5 days in a row, your tolerance goes up. Same thing like with emotional pain. You can learn that skill. You can experience heartbreak multiple times. Get different perspective. Therapy is a great way of building the toolkit to deal with emotional pain. This is all kind of fascinating, but to think that there is a correlation, I'm just always back to, again, there's two ways of looking at life. You can be a victim of a situation, and you can be a victim and still, again, it's not about taking the blame. It's about, you can be a victim and still learn from a situation. That's how I've gone about life. I'm a big believer in, regardless of how people have treated me, that my energy, which isn't unlimited, is far more productive focusing that energy on the things I could learn and change, because I could spend an infinite amount of time wondering about why, we had a caller earlier today that was like, well, why do all men do this? And I was like, I don't know. I can't speak for all men, but why do you do the things that you were doing to cause this situation? Again, that's not alleviating the men that she's frustrating with. It's just more like, hey, you only have $5 to spend. Do you want to spend it on figuring out what you could do differently and almost certainly get some kind of answer or
Like,
some
this
sort
is
of
what
plan?
you can control.
Or do you want to get, or do you want to spend five of those dollars, not getting any answers, or maybe getting 50 different answers that may or may not apply to the person you were referring to?
Mm-hmm.
And I just find it, for myself, it's been a lot more productive thinking about how I can spend my energy and then trying to build my tolerance up for any type of pain that I'm going to endure. Because what I've learned about life is that pain is inevitable, both physical and emotional. And either you're going to survive it or you're not. And your quality of life will be a determination of your ability to do either.
Yeah. The only thing you can, and there's so much in life that's out of our control and so much going on around us that we have literally no say in. The only thing that we can do is control what we do and how we react. And, sometimes, you get into a car accident that is out of your control, and the physical pain that you're going to be in, the emotional pain that that's going to cause is out of your control. But all you can do is, seek therapy if you need to afterwards, take care of your wounds.
Yeah. Some people have been in very tragic car accidents, lost the ability to walk, and became Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's how do we respond to adversity?
Yeah. How do you use your pain to benefit you? And
anyways, thanks for listening and allowing us to have these conversations. We enjoy having them. Hopefully you enjoy being a part of them. We got some great calls lined up for you. But before we do, don't forget to send in those questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com for all things Ask Nick, texting office hours. You know the drill. We appreciate you listening. As always, we will be back this week. We have a great week lined up for you. Tomorrow on Reality Recap, Camilla Luddington. You probably know her as Joe Wilson on Grey's Anatomy. She's also a huge reality fan. We'll have her on Reality Recap talking about the Perfect Match finale and so much more. A lot of obviously Bravo drama on Fallout. We obviously have a lot to get into. So please join us. Also this week on Going Deeper, we have Micah from Perfect Match to talk a lot about her relationship with Kaz, all the drama that happened, a fascinating conversation with Micah. Be sure to tune in. Join the fun. Let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Going good. My name is Gabby and I'm 23, and I'm wondering if I should confront my coworker about her affair with another coworker.
Okay. What kind of job is this? Is this like a career or is this like a job?
This is just a job. It's retail, so I'm sure you could ascertain that there's often a lot of drama that goes around in that.
Yeah, this isn't like a dream job. You're not really worried about the job per se or your reputation.
Yeah, I mean,
or your brand.
I could potentially grow in this job, but it's not, I guess, my top priority in the long run.
Okay. Is this a coworker or is this a friend or both?
I think she's trying to be a friend, but I'm also a little skeptical about it. So I guess I'll start with me and this girl, we've always been friendly with each other, but as long as I've worked there, our conversations have been limited to just surface level interactions. But as of a couple of months ago, she's been confiding in me more about her situation. And yeah, that's where we're at.
And what's her situation?
Well, initially from what she's told me, because I've heard about this affair from other people, other sources. But as far as what she's shared with me, it's been, as of a couple months ago, she came to me and many other people about her unhappiness in her current relationship. She's been in it for 4 years and she's lived with him for a majority of it in his house with his parents. She initially was coming to me just expressing how unbearable it is to live there. And obviously, the first solution we came up with was for her to move out and move back in with her dad. And as she was telling me that, then she started unpacking how unhappy she is just in her relationship in general. and how her boyfriend takes her for granted and they haven't connected in a while. And so her first step was to just tell him that she was moving out, and she did, but they didn't really talk about their relationship at all. So then her priority was to just move out. So I asked her like if she intended on breaking up with him anytime soon, and she said not until I move all of my stuff out because I worry that it'll create like a toxic situation with his mom while she's moving her stuff out.
What was the thing she was waiting on telling him?
Yeah, to end the relationship.
Okay.
And it seemed like their communication as far as like in the context of the relationship and if they had problems was very minimal at this point. It seemed like they had both given up on that, but she was kind of placing that responsibility on him. And I tried to explain to her that in a relationship, like you both have to bring that effort in order for it to work. As all of this is transpiring, I then hear from somebody else that she is now seeing somebody in our workplace. And I guess for the context of that, so as of like earlier this year, she's been in a group chat with my boyfriend and other people from his department. One of those people includes the guy that she ends up having this affair with. As they're like in this group chat, he developed a big crush on her, and it reached a point where he was making inappropriate comments to her in the group chat and then telling other people about his crush on her. And it just reached a point where my boyfriend pulled her aside and asked her if she was okay, if she was comfortable, because if she wasn't, then he was going to do something about it. And she said she would handle it. And so she said that she had a conversation with him and basically said, like, hey, I have a boyfriend. And even if I didn't, like, you're younger than me and like I wouldn't go for you anyways. And so she cut off communication with him individually, but she remained in that group chat. And then they all had a group outing together where this guy dropped a bunch of them off at the venue and then was going to drive them all home, including her. And she was the last one that he dropped off. And that's when the affair started.
How do you know that?
So how I'm hearing all of this is the guy that she's hooking up with is telling my boyfriend all of the details about it.
Gotcha.
And so that night specifically, she had messaged him after he dropped her off. And she said, if you had tried to kiss me tonight, I would have let you. And so the flirtation just progressed from there. And then it led into physical things. And all of this is happening. Like she's still talking to me about her boyfriend. And I'm trying to clarify, like, so are you aiming to work through this or are you just waiting till the situation is comfortable for you to break up with him? And then that's when she told me like, oh, well, I am going to his lake house this weekend. So we're going to try and rekindle our relationship. All the while, like I found out like the day before she hooked up with this guy.
Gotcha.
So,
and you kept your mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're trying to decide whether you should continue to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, because I guess the only reason like I would keep my mouth shut is just to maintain like my boyfriend's relationship with his coworkers. Because obviously I heard about it from him, and so like it's an easy chain of people to track down.
Think.
My boyfriend disapproves of the whole thing. And honestly, like every time the guy talks to him about it, he calls him out on it and says like, so you guys are just cheating then. And like, you're telling me all of this when it's inappropriate that you're telling me this. This kid, like, he's not even a man to me, really. Like he thinks that he loves this girl, but while he says that he loves her, he's also like, without her consent, going into these very intimate details about like their sex life. So that's why like I am debating whether or not to tell her, because I am like disgusted by her behavior, honestly. But like I also like as a person, like I acknowledge that it's fucked up that like she is involving herself with somebody that just like doesn't respect her, but then again she clearly doesn't respect herself either. So it's just this back and forth thing in my head.
Okay. I mean, I guess, listen, a lot of times when people call it with similar type of stories, most of it's often like you would be the one who found out the guy you're hooking up with has a wife or a girlfriend. And it's like, do I tell the wife or the girlfriend? And usually the answer is kind of like, honestly, you should just remove yourself from the situation now that you know, and she's not going to thank you. You're just going to be the enemy type of thing. This is slightly obviously different. part of me is just like, listen, as long as you have your boyfriend's permission, it seems like you both have a strong POV on her conduct and his conduct, and you guys are interacting with these people. Prior to understanding that she was, behaving like this, she came to you as a friend to talk about her original relationship and the problems that she was having. So she was just like, hey, here's someone I want to confide in and I want to share things with you. And she's hoping and I guess expecting some kind of like counsel or advice or just like support, yada, yada, yada. So in that vein, she has like kind of opened the door for you to communicate to her how you feel about what's going on.
Yeah.
Or her behavior. She asks your advice, it sounds like at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also you don't have to bring up, people might figure it out. You know what I'm saying? But that's really not the point. But you don't have to say, well, I heard from so-and-so, my boyfriend told me and he's, you don't have to get into how you heard. It's true. You know what I'm saying? And like, you don't have, this isn't about confronting her to get her to admit it and call her out because, well, just, so-and-so's talking about you. It's like, I'm assuming that's not what you're doing, why you would do it. If you were to say something, it would be based off the premise that like this person started a relationship with you based off the idea that she wanted to make good decisions, like, hey, I'm struggling in my current relationship. I live with my boyfriend and his mom or parents or whatever, and that sucks. It's not a healthy environment. Do you have advice for me? Oh, by the way, I'm not really happy in this current relationship. Do you have any advice for me? What should I do? Then you like checked in. Hey, are you breaking up? And then she's like, well, actually, we're going to try to reconnect and I'm going to his lake house. And she's sharing so much about her information. Again, you've become this confident. So you could go up to her and be like, hey, listen, like, I've been made aware of the fact that you are hooking up with so-and-so. Like, it's honestly like none of my business. I don't approve of this behavior. But as someone who like, listen, you have a boyfriend and you've come to me for advice. And it's just like, I just don't think what you're doing is okay. You should end your relationship. And like, listen, it's like, don't make her feel judged or shamed. I mean, you're clearly judging her, but I guess you could say it's just like, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. I know you're struggling. I know this is hard, but like, figure your shit out. She's being messy by obviously doing this with people and like bringing the drama into work and things like that. So I think you kind of just like, hey, listen, I heard this is happening. I really don't want to be a part of it. I don't approve of it. I think you need to end your relationship. But at the end, at the end of the day, if you're going to choose to continue this, like, I think I just need to distance myself.
Right. Yeah. I know. Honestly, that's kind of where I was leaning of like, this whole situation just seems messy and draining. And because I think where I came to this like internal debate is just because like I think I was getting like personally triggered by the situation in general to where like I felt I needed to do something about it. And I think it's best for me to just distance myself because to some degree I also feel like, yeah, she was confiding in me, but she was also confiding in like many other people. So they also have the opportunity to tell her the truth because it is starting to get around to these other people she was confiding in.
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to what's your intention. Why do you want to do it? If you want to do it because you want to call her out or, involve yourself in drama, then like maybe don't do it. If you're just like, hey, listen, like she's confiding in me and like, I feel strongly about her behavior and I don't like that she's doing it. And I'd like to think that she's just making a mistake that she's not fully realizing the gravity of it. And if it's coming from a place of like, just, hey, listen, like, why are you doing this? Like, I think you should stop or you should reevaluate, your decisions, but like, it's going to affect you, and come from a place of trying to offer her some advice and be a friend and guidance and see if she's receptive to it. But you can say, it's just, listen, or maybe you wait for the next time she says something to you, it's just like, listen, I don't want to like, it's none of my business, but I just know this is going on and I just don't appreciate people just like lying to my face. And if I'm happy to be a friend to you, but like friendship goes both ways. So like, you're not being upfront with me, I don't know how you want to say it, but it just comes down to what is your intention of bringing it up? If you're doing it to be dramatic or just involve yourself in drama or, share your opinion or just judge her, maybe it's not productive. If you think that you can, it's worth at least you saying something. So maybe you could be a wake up call to her, because now she's developing a reputation, amongst the people she works with. And that's not good for her.
Exactly.
And I don't know why she's doing what she's doing, but she'll probably eventually regret it.
No, I would hope so. It just seems all unnecessary. I mean, cheating in general is unnecessary, but in her situation specifically, her relationship is already on the outs. She's fully moved out of the house with her boyfriend.
I mean,
So
she
like
clearly
she's
just
removed
like,
herself
yeah,
physically from the situation.
yeah, she just likes the attention from this younger guy. She probably doesn't take him all that
Mm.
seriously, and
Yeah. So yeah, I think I will just wait and see if she talks to me again, because I also kind of have noticed that she's been a bit more quiet at work. So I think she's trying to isolate herself and allow herself to just be in this bubble where like she's not doing anything wrong, or there's no opportunity for somebody to tell her what she's doing is wrong. In which case then like, yeah, it's easier for me to just distance myself completely, because yeah, the only reason why like I don't want to say anything is because I don't want to be involved in the blowback of it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, I think you just removing yourself from the situation is a totally like valid option. And like I said before, it just comes down to if you're doing it because you think you can be helpful, not sure how she's going to receive it, but if it's coming from a place of you really are trying to help. Listen, she's making mistakes. She is in need. This is a self-destructive behavior that she is, demonstrating. But at the same time, it's not your problem. So you you just have to decide if you want to be a friend to her. And not only mean like, but just like you could be a friend to a stranger, just, I guess what I'm saying is just like, cause some people might just like, some people who know might already be like, well, what a bitch, or she's so dirty, or what a slut, or, start, calling her names in her head and like, oh, she's bad news and she's this and she's that. And like, again, want to be part of the drama. And they just want to talk shit about her. And I know what you did. And they want to shame her and like make themselves feel better by putting her down. And like, that's not going to do any good. But at the same time, like, again, this is a self-destructive behavior. I don't know if this person, how her overall character is, or if she's just kind of going through a personal crisis. All I could say is this. Sometimes people in her position can use the type of friend that says, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, you're better than this. Like, why, make different decisions. Like, and at least, not everyone responds the way they want, but sometimes there are people who do respond, and they need that wake up call. They need the friend that kind of metaphorically grabs them by the shoulders and shakes them a little bit and be like, what are you doing? And sometimes these things start by like just a flirtation here, and, it turns into a kiss, and just, and it goes down a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
So if you're doing it for good, maybe give it a shot, but it just kind of comes down to inside. Why would you be doing it? If you do say something, you have to kind of say it and then walk away. I gotta
go back to work.
Well, yeah, it's just like, listen, you've come to me, I've gotten to know you, I really have enjoyed getting to know you, but I've been made aware of this, and honestly, like, this is really hard to hear. I'm not sure why you're doing this. You mentioned that your relationship was, ending anyways, but like, this isn't the behavior of the person I've gotten to know. And you're making decisions that are hurting people. I don't even know your boyfriend, but like, this isn't the type of behavior I thought you were capable of. So if you want to talk about it, I'm here. I don't want to judge you, but like, I'm not here to judge you. But if you want to talk about what's going on here, I'm here to help. But at the same time, I also don't want to surround myself with someone who's going to continue this type of behavior. So I just want to, be upfront. But we all make mistakes, and if you need a friend, we can talk. And if you're willing to be the friend that gives her like tough love and is still willing to listen, but while still holding her accountable for her actions, then you can do that. So,
okay.
All right.
Glad we're on the same page.
So yeah, it really just comes down to what are your intentions for doing it. If you're trying to be the morality police and come from a place of judgment, just move on. If you think that you could offer some help to someone who's struggling with some personal choices and making self-destructive choices and be a potential like wake up call to say, hey, what are you doing? And hopes to get through to her, then give it a shot.
Yeah, because if I were to talk to her, like, I would want to reassure her that like, if she's ready to confront what she's doing and like fully reflect on that it will get better.
Yeah.
And that she can use this as a learning opportunity for future relationships that she can effectively build. Because yeah, it's important to understand like why you're doing what you're doing, and like why you felt like you, instead of just respecting your 4-year relationship, you went this other route that did not serve you at all.
Yeah, I mean, forget about her relationship she's not respecting. She's not respecting herself, This relationship is clearly over. She's mentally kind of checked out. She just doesn't have the guts to end the relationship. Why? I don't know. She's not going to end up hanging out with this younger guy, and most likely she's hanging out with her boyfriend, but now she's going to have to face the fact that she either have to admit that she has been unfaithful, or every relationship she goes in, she's going to lie to her next partner about the fact that she was unfaithful, and then that's, now she's starting relationships off on a lie, or, it's just, why is she doing this? Maybe this is a behavior that she hasn't really dealt with in the past that she'll only continue. So to that end, like, maybe this could be a wake-up call. All right.
Yep.
Well, keep us posted. I'd love to know what you end up deciding.
Okay. Honestly, I think I'll just stay out of it. But if the opportunity presents itself and I can be honest with her and just provide her some advice and help, then I will. But if not, I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Okay. Maybe your boyfriend can say something too.
Yeah, I guess he could say something to her, but I think he talks more with the guy than with her since they work in the same department.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, take care.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, that's right, big or small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start affecting us negatively. That's why therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. Therapy has been a huge part of mine and Natalie's life and relationship, and thank God we've been able to just, listen, when you get triggered, it's better to just vent with your therapist rather than venting out to the world. Even that is just a huge benefit. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable for your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charges, because we know how important it is to match with a therapist that you feel comfortable with. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/VIALL.
Spring has sprung, and that means spring cleaning. Whether that means stocking up on cleaning supplies or swapping out your winter clothes for new spring clothes, make sure you're using Ibotta and getting real cash back with every single purchase. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing.
The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've always been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you have been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, just add up your offers in the app, upload your receipt, and get real cash that you can cash out to your bank, PayPal, or gift cards. Join the over 50 million users and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including all your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using code VIALL when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store to download for free. Download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back and using code VIALL. That is Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use code VIALL. Just go to Ibotta in the Google Play or App Store and use code VIALL. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Francesca. I'm 23 years old.
How can I help, Francesca?
So my boyfriend goes mute around my family and friends, and I was just looking for some advice.
How long have you been dating this guy?
We made it official in December, but we started seeing each other in October, so it hasn't been that long.
Okay.
But I guess just sorting out if he even recognizes, also if he's mute. I also haven't brought this up to him because I kind of wanted him to fix the behavior on his own, which I know I should probably vocalize my wants and needs or things like that. But I just kind of want to see if he would, if it's his personality or if he would need to warm up. I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to draw attention, and then, you know what I mean?
Kind of, yes. Do you know if your boyfriend's more introverted or extroverted?
I would say he's more introverted, but I guess I could give you some examples too, or some background story. So I have a big family and my sister is engaged. I met my boyfriend at her engagement party. So he actually lived in college with my sister's fiance. So it's not when he's around my family, he's pretty good friends with my sister and my sister's boyfriend, it's not he doesn't know anybody there. And so some examples, we had holidays together and stuff. And he literally, my mom after was I don't even know what his voice sounds like because he only said maybe hello and goodbye and maybe one sentence in between. I guess I just think it's odd that he is so quiet around his friends too. My sister and her fiance are actually friends with him. I was introduced through him. And then I guess another example too is I'm in school right now and I was driving home from school and I was on the phone, or I was driving to his apartment from school, and I was on the phone with my friend, and we were chatting, and then he hopped in the car. And I was like, oh, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's in the car too, just so you know. I was like, say hi, because like he wasn't saying anything. And then he finally said hi. And then my friend is very chatty. So she was like talking away, and he like wasn't saying anything. I kept like making prompts for him to say or jump in the conversation. Then at one point, she said something to him, and then he joked around and said, oh, like, you have 30 seconds left, like talking to me, which I think could be funny. But like, in order to say that line, I feel like you kind of have to have some like repertoire during the conversation, you know, like being like joking and then say like, oh, just so you know, you have 30 seconds, like, you know, whatever. So basically, and then, oh, last example I'm going to give too. So there was another event that I couldn't go to because I had a lot of exams coming up. I had to study. The rest of my family was there, and he was there, and he, like, they were table sittings, and he sat at my family's table, and there's like an empty seat next to me because I couldn't go. And he told me that he sat with my family instead of his friends. And I was like, oh, like, that's sad you couldn't sit with your friends, because I kind of wanted to see what he was going to say. And he was like, oh no, like, I really enjoyed like getting to talk to them. Like, I was happy to sit next to them. But then I talked to my brother. My brother was like, he is so quiet. Like, we sat in silence. Like, he would not, like, he barely would like respond to the things I said. But at the same time, I feel like from his point of view, he thought he was like kind of bonding. And like, we were walking down the street by his apartment. We were passing like a restaurant. He was like, oh, your brother said like this restaurant serves really good, like whatever, like we should go there. So like, it sounds like he got so much, like from his perspective, I thought they had like this like great big conversation, but then from like my family's perspective, like they barely talk.
Is your family very close? Very loud and chatty?
My family, we're all like, we're Italian. We're very Italian. I feel like we're kind of loud. And
is your boyfriend Italian?
No, he's not.
I think you're dating an introvert, and I think you're dating someone who's just has a different personality than what your family is used to. I'm guessing you probably have family members that are introverted, but like introverts, you know, or people who have introverted qualities, they're a slow burn. It takes them a while to warm up to people. They're also not big on small talk. I mean, the way you describe your boyfriend, you kind of sometimes describe me. Like, when I get introduced to like situations where it's just a bunch of new people, I'm not going to be the person who's like working the room and just like, hey, I'm Nick, like, you know, and making small talk, and, you know, no one, you're not going to bring me to a party with a bunch of strangers and then have a bunch of be like, yeah, I had this great conversation with Nick and we were just talking about these random things. It's just like, I don't really open up to a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
Normally. I can be real fucking quiet, you know, and I am also comfortable with sitting in silence. Some people are and some people aren't. Sometimes sitting in silence makes people feel uncomfortable. Actually, it makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And it doesn't make your boyfriend feel uncomfortable. He's very comfortable with it, which is why you can fear the disconnect between his interpretation of a conversation and your brother's. You know, my guessing your brother is probably very much used to like, you know, your family and how they all interact, and everyone's just very friendly and open and talkative, and your boyfriend's just not that.
I just feel like also though, like the layer of like, don't you think because he's good friends, like he's known them for like years, even if my sister and her fiance are in the same room, like he still like doesn't even talk to them.
Maybe he doesn't have anything to talk to him about.
I feel like if I go somewhere, I want to like make a good impression. I want to like introduce myself, like have something like leaving like a lasting impression kind of. And I feel like he's okay with just like not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
which I guess that's just,
it's kind of who he is.
Also, I guess another added layer too is my dad is very, very quiet in social settings, and like he does not talk. Like my mom is very talkative, and that's something that I don't really, I guess, like value. Like I am not like, my parents' relationship isn't like the best relationship. So like I wouldn't personally like, I associate, obviously not every quiet person with my father, but like I associate some tenants. Like I just like, a big fear of mine is finding someone similar to my dad. And I feel like I know it's a struggle for my mom to like go to social settings.
Okay, in what ways? Like his quietness specifically?
One of the things is his quietness. Like I know my mom struggles like going out to dinner with friends and stuff, like with couples, because like he's just gonna be so quiet and like kind of awkward to talk to and like not be able to hold a conversation. Or like you'll always have to ask him questions about like work or something like that, something to get him talking rather than like a reciprocal like conversation. So I guess that's like another reservation.
Yeah, it sounds like you are dating your dad.
So you don't think it's just like something where it warms up? You just think it's from the like.
If your boyfriend's anything like me, or if he's just like what I'm hearing from you, this won't be the last time your boyfriend gets this kind of feedback. You know what I'm saying? How much he cares or doesn't care about this feedback, I don't know. I'm sure it won't be the first time he hears this feedback if you bring it up to him. Now, how you bring it up to him matters greatly. If you say things like, you never talk when you're around people, like, why? What's wrong with you? Like if you talk to him like that, he'll probably get defensive. He just has a different personality. You know what I'm saying? Your dad and your boyfriend, they're just quiet people. They're more introverted. They're not like small talk is not their thing. They don't need to talk about the fucking weather for the sake of talking about the weather. Again, they're comfortable with sitting in silence. On some level, that is never going to change. Now, depending on, I don't know what your dad does for a living or whatever, but depending on who, what type of job your boyfriend wants, or like using myself as an example, I've had to work on this. You know what I'm saying? I've had to take feedback. I've had to become more aware of my surroundings. And I guess when I need to give a shit, I can turn it on, but I have to turn it on.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the sake of Natalie, I need to turn it on. Sometimes, but when Natalie introduced me to her family, no one was like, wow, that Nick, what a dynamic, chatty Kathy. Boy, he's a real charmer. No, I had to meet him 4 or 5 times before I was even comfortable being myself. For the most part, I just kind of sat in a corner. I chilled. I was there to support Natalie. I did my thing.
But I guess also after one of these instances happened, I went over to his apartment. We went upstairs and his roommate was there. And I was kind of frustrated. So I was just on my phone, texting people. And he was like, why are you so quiet? Why aren't you talking? But that was just kind of, I guess,
because you're never quiet. It's again, you're it's you're not the quiet person. It's not
but he was so chatty.
Sure.
He was so chatty with his roommate. You know what I mean?
He's comfortable with his roommate. I can be, I literally talk for a living,
Yeah.
Depending on the environment, I won't shut the fuck up. I'll talk forever. I'll interrupt people. If I got something to say, believe me, I'll say it. But it's the small talk. Your boyfriend isn't into small talk, and your boyfriend's comfortable with his roommate. I don't know what he was talking about, but I bet it was something he was passionate about, something he was invested in, something him and his roommate had a similar common interest. I don't know, maybe it was fantasy football, maybe it was their TV shows. I don't know. Maybe he's just not your guy, you clearly have a strong opinion about your dad's personality and your mom's struggle, and sounds like you're more like your mom than you are like your dad. And if he's not the person you want to be with, then maybe he's just not your guy. You're not compatible. But if you decide you want to be with this guy, if everything else is great, and he treats you well, he makes you feel good, and you're attracted to him, you like the sex, you like how motivated he is in his career, but at the end of the day, it just bugs you that he's quiet and he's just not he's not the most charming guy around your family. I promise you, eventually he'll get to know a couple family members. If there's anyone there where a topic or someone shares a similar interest, eventually he'll open up and start chatting with someone. But it won't be until he finds something that he's really passionate and something he wants to talk about.
That's fair. But I just feel
I'm just saying you're never going to invite him over to your family lunch, your Sunday lunch or whatever, where it's a bunch of family members and your aunts and your uncles and your cousins and their nieces and nephews come in. He's just never going to start a conversation with 2 of them about whatever,
Yeah. And I feel that's okay, not approaching someone really far removed. But I feel that he's met them a few times. Same with my friends.
What's a few times?
He's just, I would say 10.
Okay. Listen, you have the right as his girlfriend to say, hey, listen, I know you're a quiet guy. And listen, you're more introverted. I love that about you. I hope that you can identify aspects of his personality that you do like and appreciate. And so before you criticize this type of behavior, which is part of his personality, you should make sure that you recognize the things that you do appreciate about him. But it is something you can ask him to work on. It's not a strength of his. And in every relationship, you have strengths and weaknesses. And there are things that you're going to do that either rub him the wrong way or just they're going to be things you need to work on. So you have the right to say, hey, listen, I know it's not, it's not something you're into, but, again, maybe it's a double date with a friend. But can you try to be more conversational? I know can you just turn it on?
Yeah.
It's you have to ask him to make the effort, because it doesn't come naturally to him. And if, and again, it's something that does take effort. So you don't get to ask him to be this every time you go out. On some level, you're going to have to be okay with the fact that your partner is more of a quiet guy in social settings. And every once in a while, when you need him to turn it on, because let's say for some day, you get a job and you need to bring him to a job event and it's a networking event and you need a partner who's kind of helping you get into conversations. You can be like, hey man, I need you to turn it on. I need you to try to be engaging. And that's a skill he can work on because it doesn't come naturally.
Right. I feel like another thing too is he has a job that requires you to be pretty like social. And I feel like, and I guess these two things probably don't necessarily like go together, but I feel like he like builds such good relationships with like these patients, like with he's in the healthcare. So with patients and stuff, like they give him gifts and like gift cards, bake him cakes, like all this stuff, which doesn't necessarily mean that he's like super talkative, but I would think it would like, I don't know. So I just feel like certain things like counter are like
it's not
opposite
counterintuitive
of what he says.
It's not. I'm telling you. I mean, like again, you're literally talking to a version of your boyfriend right now. I am your boyfriend.
Okay.
And and before I talked for a living on a podcast, I was in sales, which is a very social job. And I had clients, and I know how to turn it on, and I know how I can talk all day. It's the small talk. It's the like at work, your boyfriend has a purpose. He's working. He's making money. He's earning. You know, he's done the background. Your boyfriend, I'm guessing, likes having more deeper conversations, and he likes talking about topics, and he likes talking about ideas. He doesn't like small talk with strangers.
Okay. And then also I have another thing I want to bring up too for your advice. I'm in graduate school right now, and I would say it's pretty rigorous. Like we have multiple exams a week, multiple quizzes a week, and there was this one weekend, it was a Friday, and I had like 2 exams on that Friday, and I was staying after to work on something with a bunch of other people, but he wanted to go to like a dinner and grab drinks with him and his friends. And I had initially said yes. And then like 30 minutes before, which probably wasn't enough time, but I kind of canceled it. I was just like, I'm really stressed. Like I really need to get this done. And there's a lot of people here also working on that project. I feel like I need to stay. And he was upset, like clearly upset on the phone. And then he's like, okay, whatever, I understand. And I was like, maybe I'll try to meet you after. And he was going at like 5 p.m. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll try to meet you after. And the place was like 35 minutes away. And then I get a text message that says like, don't bother meeting me. It's raining outside. I don't want you to drive or whatever, which was just like, I feel like him being upset. And then I'm working on whatever I'm working on. And then I'm packing up and I'm at my like locker, and I look up and he's there. Like he showed up at my school. I was like, why are you here? I thought you had to go like for 5. At this point, it was past 5. And he was like, oh, like we pushed it back. I just wanted to come to make sure like you weren't upset at me for like how we ended things on the phone or something. And then he ended up driving me to this dinner that was 35 minutes away. And I just wanted your take on that, because in my opinion, well, I don't want to say what I feel like, but I just was curious.
I'm confused. I guess I'm confused. I don't know what's the
Do you not feel like it's a little bit invasive to show up? Like, it's almost like me showing up at his workplace. Like, I feel like it was almost like a way, in some aspects, like kind of manipulative, like a way to get me to go to this dinner when I said I couldn't.
You couldn't, or you didn't want to?
I would say both, but like more that I couldn't. Like, I had a lot of exams like that next week. I had a big exam on Monday, and I wanted to like spend the night working on that stuff.
And him showing up was manipulative but didn't he tell you don't bother?
Yeah, he told me don't bother, but then like he showed up at my school, which I think is just like a little strange. Or no, maybe you don't think so, but I don't know. I mean,
I wasn't there. Your story's a bit choppy, but at the end of the day, I don't think a boyfriend showing up to surprise his girlfriend to say hi while simultaneously saying, hey, I didn't love the way we ended things in our last conversation, so I want to make sure we're good, is the worst thing in the world. And unless he did or said anything more than that you're leaving out, I don't think that on its own is manipulative. He ended up driving you you got a free ride to his dinner. Did he bring it up anymore? Did he guilt you? Did he huff and puff? He has the right to be annoyed that you canceled on him last minute.
Yes. No, I understand that. But I just feel like he gets very frustrated with me very often that I can't do certain things because like I'm studying, or like he doesn't have a laundry machine in his apartment. So I'll literally go and do laundry with him, like at the laundromat. But I'll be like, oh, like I'm probably gonna have to leave like in 3-ish hours. Like I'm just trying to give him the timeline because like I have to go study for a quiz or whatever. And then he'll like, his response will be like, well, why didn't you do that before? But like in the meantime, before that, like I already wrote 2 different essays, went to the grocery store and like meal prepped. You know what I mean? So like I was taking care of other things. So, like I just feel a little like.
How old is he and how old are you again?
So he's 4 years older than me. So he's 27.
Okay, and you're 23.
And I'm 23.
Okay. How many boyfriends have you had?
This is my first official boyfriend.
Okay, yeah. You can kind of tell. Listen, I just...
But when I told...
Go ahead.
I don't know. The people who I talked to about this, like I guess talking to you, you have a very different perspective than like the people close to me in my life, because like the people I told who when he like showed up at school, they thought that was like absurd and like a little insane that like you're coming unannounced. I just feel like that's a little uncalled for, and basically like not forcing me, but like I don't know, it felt like a little forced that I have to go to this dinner, you know?
But you didn't.
I did go to the dinner.
You ended up going with him to the dinner?
Correct.
And why was that?
I personally felt like a little pressured, regardless if it was like direct pressure, but I just felt like.
Did he say anything when he got there? Was he like, are you sure you can't go? How did you get in the car and go to the dinner?
Yeah. He said, I don't like the way things ended. I was like, it's really okay, blah, blah, blah. Like, why are you here? Because the dinner should have started by the time he was there. And he was like, oh, people hit traffic. Like, we're just pushing it down back to 5:30. Like, I was packed up. Like, I put my stuff in the locker. And I was like ready to go.
What was said that made you go to the dinner?
I think just him coming there, like I felt like pressured, and like I was also exhausted. Like again, like I had a lot of exams that week. The best night would have been like going home, getting into pajamas, eating dinner, eating ice cream on the couch. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just felt like I had no like real excuse, I guess, to say no besides that. And I feel like based off previous things with him being upset with me, like
which one is it? Either you couldn't go or you didn't feel like going. It's just like both. It's one or the other. Because first of all, you went. Let's be clear. So you could.
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
You're telling me the alternative is like you'd rather just, hey, you've been busy, you got a lot of exams, and honestly, if I had my way, which I tried to communicate to him earlier, was I would just go home, relax, maybe do a little bit of studying, but unwind, watch some like dumb television, eat some ice cream, go to bed, and just like re-energize myself. That's what you wanted to do.
Right. And I also thought this dinner was at 5, not 5:30.
Whatever.
So I had, well, the only point of saying that is just that, like, I was staying after to do this thing that I did finish. Like, I ended up finishing it early.
Anyway, nothing was stopping you when he showed up at whatever his intentions were for why he showed up. Nothing was stopping you from being like, well, yeah, thanks for coming by. I didn't like how it ended either. And by the way, I'm really sorry that like, I know I said I would try, but like I have way too much going on and I didn't realize. And, I'm just a little stressed out with school and I know I'm letting you down. I'm really sorry, but I really just, if you really need me to, but it would really be helpful for me in school if I could just go home and do it. You could have had that conversation, and that's what a relationship is sometimes there's a disconnect, between expectations and communications. And sometimes you have to reconnect by having a conversation and get on the same page. I think it's a bit unfair for you to blame him or accuse him of manipulating you into going to something you didn't want to do just because you didn't want to like speak up and communicate your needs.
I've also though had that conversation with him multiple times, and he like,
what conversation?
Is obviously like the conversation of saying like, this is really stressful. Like, is this important for me to go to for you? Because
what was the dinner about? Like why did he want his girlfriend there?
It was just like friends. Like there was no special occasion. There was no birthday. There was no celebration. It was just like a dinner out with like some friends.
Okay.
And
I'm sure
which
he
is fair.
likes to have time with a girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah, but
are you too busy to have a boyfriend? I mean, med school sounds pretty hard and complicated and difficult. And some people like, hey, listen, it's not like you're 3 years into this relationship and you're engaged and now you're like like a lot of I bet you're going to med school with some engaged people, and they're in a relationship and they're making it work because they're in love and their plan is to marry this person and they're grinding through med school and there's an understanding between this couple because they have a history, they have a rapport, they understand each other's personalities and what makes them tick and et cetera, and now they're getting through med school together through the support of their partner who again understands them with the plan on like getting married when they get done. You are starting your first relationship ever at a time where you have no time or free time. And you're being asked to be a girlfriend when you don't always have time to be a girlfriend and you feel bad. But then, it's like you have to decide what you want. And then you have to like, are you in a position to do it? You can like him and want to have a boyfriend, but maybe you just don't have the time to be a girlfriend.
Yeah.
He has, you have the right to be in a relationship and from time to time be like, hey, like, so babe, tonight, I just kind of need a little alone time. And that's normal. But you're like, well, I've had multiple conversations with him about being busy. It's like, okay, well, like how many times have you told him I'm too busy for you? I'm sure that might frustrate him too, And so here he is trying to get quality time with his girlfriend. And then you canceled last minute I'm sure that's frustrating for anyone. So I don't know. It's like, to me, it's just like, you have to decide what you want or what and here you are just also trying to figure out this guy's personality and not even sure if he's the type of personality that you want.
Yeah, I agree with every single thing you said. I also feel like sometimes he makes a lot of comments too that like about me be like busy and not like having a lot of like, he's always like, you're always so stressed out, which like I am.
Well, if you're in a relationship with someone who's always stressed out, you can feel helpless by not being able to help them not be stressed out. But like, you have to let him help you not be stressed out. Maybe he's not even capable of it. You being stressed out, it sounds like you just want to be alone.
That's a good perspective.
It's tough to be his boyfriend to say, well, every time my girlfriend's stressed out, which is a lot lately because she's in med school, which makes a lot of sense, but she just wants to be alone every time she's stressed out. So I never see her.
Yes, but a lot of times that I'm alone, like I'm normally working, like I'm studying, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it. Listen, you're busy. You're in med school. Like, there's a strong argument to be made that now's the time at 23 years old in med school, you shouldn't be fucking around with like boyfriends. Because, it takes a lot of work to be in a healthy relationship. It can be exhausting. People are needy. You're needy. He's needy. You both have needs. You're both expecting each other to meet each other's needs. And right now, you're not.
Yeah.
And it just seems a little kind of, instead of like just understanding that, you're going around asking people if my boyfriend's trying to manipulate me because he showed up at school.
Well, I just think to a lot of other people in my class who are kind of going through the same thing, like they could see how that's like very frustrating / like a lot of pressure versus just like being more of like to me, that's the opposite of being like supportive, which like, granted, I know that like I canceled last minute and that's frustrating.
No, you're right. In that moment, he was not being supportive of you. He was thinking more about what he wanted, and that was for his girlfriend to come to his friend date, double date, or whatever, and have he wanted quality time with his girlfriend. And he was frustrated that what he thought was plans turned into you canceling. I don't know. I don't know why he showed up, if he was hoping that you would end up going with him. Maybe. I mean, sure, maybe there's a hint of manipulation there. People are manipulative like that all the time. You've done shit like that. You probably recognize it because you probably have done passive aggressive things where you just, well, I'll just show up, whatever. But like, that's not the type of manipulation you need to be worried about in a relationship. Yes. Could you have better communication? Sure. But if that's manipulative, fine. But then you definitely could have spoken up. And I'm just saying, if you're not comfortable enough to have spoken up in that situation, if you really needed to have some alone time or to study for a test, and then you're not capable of being in a relationship with this guy, because that's like a bare minimum. To say, hey, babe, I'm really sorry for disappointing you. I know you really wanted me to go. And I'm sorry because I know how frustrating it is for me to cancel last minute, and I'll owe up to you. And also I will work on not doing that in the future. But tonight I can't go. And I'm happy to talk about this. And I want to acknowledge that you have every right to be frustrated, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. You could have had that conversation and you didn't. And that's on you.
Yeah. I guess it just goes back to like, if I have the time to be in a relationship, because I feel like a lot of the times too, when I say like I'm stressed out about school or I have to do this, and he'll be like, oh, like I never see you. And I'll be like, well, I see you at least like twice a week. And then he'll be like, no, you don't. And then I'll be like, yes, I do. And then I literally make us like count the calendar because he thinks like, it's just like a straight up, I'm like, look at all these pictures. Like, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? Like, I don't know how, like, it's frustrating for me because I feel like he also doesn't recognize that like, when I do have free time, like I put it towards him. I guess comments like, oh, like, why didn't you study for the quiz before you saw me? Like that, like is frustrating for me.
Yeah. He does not understand what it's like to be in med school, for sure. I'm not trying to like say you have this perfect boyfriend, you shouldn't break up with him. It's just more like, yeah, I mean, you're clearly not on the same page, and you're both going to have to work on your communication skills, but you're definitely going to have to be part of that equation. This is not just like things your boyfriend's doing wrong that he needs to change for your relationship to blossom.
Okay. So would you say like the next step is just figuring out what I want and then having a conversation? Do you think I should have a conversation about him being more quiet, if he could like work towards being a little bit more talkative?
No, well, before you start making him feel bad about his personality, maybe you should figure out whether you have time to have a boyfriend. Because again, just like med school, relationship is a lot of work. Different, I'm not trying to necessarily compare them, but they both take work. They can both be demanding. Obviously, a relationship, I hope you get a lot more enjoyment out of it. But like, it sounds like your boyfriend's love language is quality time, and maybe yours isn't. But if you're going to be in a relationship with this guy, you need to figure out whether you can meet his needs and vice versa. if you do decide, hey, listen, this guy's worth it. I know I'm busy, but we just got to get on the same page. We both need to communicate better. I need to be better at speaking up when I feel strongly about something. I do need to like recognize that maybe his love language is quality time. So we need to carve out more quality time. And when we do hang out, we need to figure out, and make sure we're connecting and it's meaningful or whatever. And then if you do decide that you want to be with him, then it's like, okay, fine. Like, well, hey, listen, there's some things you need to work on, but there's some things he needs to work on too. And it's like, hey, listen, like he's not going to change who he is, but he can work on being more social with family and friends and people you care about. You have to say, listen, I know this isn't your favorite thing. I know you don't love doing it. If you could work on this for me at times and really be social and make people feel included, it would mean a lot to me. And hope that he does it and works on it.
Right. But that's more of just like a personality trait. Like I guess it's just introvertedness. Like But
it's never like, hey, change who you are and start enjoying this. And that's just never going to happen.
Yes. I'm not expecting that in the slightest.
When it's like you're busy with med school and it kind of just sounds like you don't have time for him and you don't fully appreciate his personality. And whether directly or indirectly, like people end up feeling that. You're in your first serious relationship. You're overanalyzing every little fucking interaction with this guy. It's kind of a waste of your time. Do you like him? Do you have time for him? What do you appreciate about him? The things you don't appreciate about him? What are things he's willing to work on? And what are some of the things that you learn about him that you're simply just going to have to accept who he is? The quiet part of who I am, at times, Natalie fucking hates. It can be tough to bring someone you're in a relationship with who like is comfortable sitting in silence, because a lot of people aren't, and it can make other people feel uncomfortable. And then no one likes to hear is like, why doesn't your boyfriend talk to anyone? And then you feel like you have to defend your boyfriend when your boyfriend's like, hey, you don't need to defend me. I don't give a fuck.
Well, I think another layer of just like it being uncomfortable maybe in silence, like I guess is also, it can almost be perceived like as almost rude. And maybe it's not
aloof.
Rude. Yeah, rude.
Yeah.
Or like rude or just like you have no interest. And like,
Correct.
I don't know. I feel like about people who I care about, like friends and family, like I would hope that you take an interest, especially when I see him interact with his own friends and family and he's like very talkative.
It just takes some time. It's just not easy for him. I don't know. What are things that you struggle with that other people find easy?
I guess relaxing.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of things. I can't think off
my
that.
My point is, I can assure you, it's just like we've talked about, like, listen, our world is more inviting to extroverts. So like extroverts are just considered more likable people. We're more accepting of them. Half the population is more introverted. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a spectrum. There are variations. I can be very extroverted at times. As I've gotten older, I've become more and more introverted. But the way you describe your boyfriend in like social settings around family, I've been him. I'm usually him. I cannot be him. I've had to work on those certain skills. But yeah, I mean, your family will, if he's worthwhile, they'll come around. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, if you keep dating this guy, he'll get more comfortable with people. He'll have more conversations, but it's just not going to happen overnight.
Well, like we're going on this vacation soon. Honestly, I was like debating whether or not to invite him for a little while. Then I decided to. He said, yeah, like he'll come for a weekend or whatever. And then my mom was talking to my sister and was like, oh, we have an extra bed. Like, do you want to invite so-and-so? And then my sister was like, oh, well, I think her boyfriend was going to come. And my mom was like, no, he's not coming. Like, I never said he was allowed to come. He doesn't even talk to me. Like, I'm not having him come. Like, that's ridiculous. And then, which I thought was rude on my mom's part. And then eventually, like, I think like the next day she like apologized and was like, of course he can come. But like, I just feel like I get like, it's part of his personality. I totally recognize that. And I totally get that. That's like, I just think perhaps it might not be like the best fit for myself.
Perhaps not. But you need to figure that out. And I can't figure it out for you. Maybe it's not a coincidence that you dated your first boyfriend at 23 years old as someone who's more like your dad.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for all your mom's complaints, she's still married to the guy. And I'm guessing she like loves him and is happy with the relation. I mean, I don't know. Maybe your parents are just still together over years of history, but I don't know.
Yeah. They're like a type who would have been better like off divorce. Like they like filed for divorce like several times, but never went through with it. Like they're just, I don't think the best match for each other.
Gotcha. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know. You might, opposites do attract. I don't know. Sometimes two extroverted people get annoyed with each other. You know?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's not even like you have to be the most talkative person ever. It's just like say something, But overall, this call was very helpful.
Okay. All right. You might not have time for a boyfriend is the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Because
And sometimes, yeah, go ahead.
and that's, you could still date and get to know people, but maybe you need to slow things down with this guy. I don't know what it is, but listen, med school, it costs money. It's a big deal. So focus on med school. Like, this is the time in your life to be selfish, and someone who hasn't had a serious boyfriend beforehand, there's a lot of like bumps in the road, and there is a lot of figuring it out, and it can be draining and exhausting, and it can, you don't necessarily have time for a draining boyfriend, so.
Right.
At the same time, like, if you think he's worthwhile, like, make it work. But you're wasting a lot of energy over analyzing every little situation about this. And that, I can assure you, is not the best use of your time.
Okay.
So you kind of have to accept who he is. And then again, it's like, do you have time for a boyfriend? If you do, then great. What are some things that, how can you guys grow your connection? What are some things about him that you like to ask him to change? What are some things about him that you're going to have to accept? What are things about you that you want him to accept? And what are some things about you that you're willing to change? Every relationship has those conversations at some point. And you either figure out, for the things that you hope they will work on over time and be willing to improve or change, you hope to see progress. And then on certain things, you're just going to have to be like, this is their personality. This is who they are. I can nag them for the rest of my life, but like, this will never be a strength of theirs.
Because sometimes I even feel like I'm like, I don't even know if I'm really that into him, which like that kind of sounds bad, but like I do enjoy spending time with him, but sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. So it's a lot to figure out.
Lots to figure out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Focus on med school.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Helix Sleep again. We'll say it again. We'll say it every time we do it. Helix Sleep has been a life changer for Natalie and I. Every mattress should be a Helix mattress. I don't know what it is. They should have a monopoly on the mattress game. It will improve world peace.
Every single night we get into bed, we do a
That was great.
That was good. That was really
and every time we wake up, we're like, I don't want to leave our mattress. And every time we travel, we're like, but can we bring her bed? It's that great.
It's so comfortable. We personally use the Moonlight mattress if you want to test out what we're talking about. They also have the Helix Plus, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattress, which is designed for growing bodies and endorsed by child sleep experts.
Helix knows there's no better way to try out a mattress than to sleep on it in your own home. That's why they are offering you a 100-night trial and a 10 to 15-year warranty to try out on your new Helix mattress. Don't want to take our word for it? Well, Helix has been awarded the #1 mattress picked by GQ and Wired magazine, and it is even recommended by multiple leading chiropractors and doctors of sleep medicine as a go-to solution for improving your sleep. Helix is offering up to 30% off all mattress and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/VIALL. It is helixsleep.com/VIALL. With Helix, better sleep starts now.
Summer is just around the corner, and with the warm weather approaching, you want to be set. Well, Apostrophe is here to help you get your skin glowing in time for summer. Apostrophe's goal is to help you feel confident in your own skin. Whether you're dealing with breakouts, signs of aging, or acne scarring, Apostrophe will help you love the skin you're in.
Apostrophe is an online platform that connects you with an expert dermatology team to get you customized acne treatment for your unique skin. Through Apostrophe, you can get access to oral and topical medications that use clinically proven ingredients to help clear acne.
All you have to do is fill out an online consultation about your skin goals and medical history. Then snap a few selfies, and a dermatology provider will create a customized treatment plan just for you. The process is really, really easy. Just identify your skin goals, fill out the consultation, take some photos. You're on your way to getting access to treatment. They've really got you covered. Apostrophe offers access to prescription treatments for all types of acne, from hormonal acne to facial acne and even back, chest, and butt acne. Treat breakouts from head to toe.
We have a special deal for our audience. Get your first visit for only $5 at apostrophe.com/VIALL when you use our code VIALL. That is a savings of $15. This code is only available to our listeners. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/VIALL and click to get started. Then use our code VIALL at sign up, and you'll get your first visit for only $5. Thank you, Apostrophe, for sponsoring this episode. How's it going?
Good. My name is Kylie. I'm 30 years old, and I am concerned that my boyfriend is prioritizing his family over us because he's no longer down to move.
Okay. How long you been with your boyfriend?
About 2.5 years.
Okay. And when you say he's no longer down to move, I'm assuming you guys had some previous agreement that you guys would move somewhere. And I'm guessing right now you guys currently live with where the majority of his family lives. Is that accurate? Give me a little backstory.
Yeah, so we started dating in September of 2021, and it wasn't that long after that I did realize that I still hadn't fully healed from my previous relationship.
Okay.
And it was March of 2023 that I told my boyfriend that I needed kind of some space. I needed to kind of take a pause on our relationship to heal and to kind of figure out what I wanted.
Okay. How did he handle that?
So he was very understanding because he knew my previous relationship. It was almost like a marriage where we had been together for 6 years. There was like a ring. We had a business together, animals together. So he was really understanding about the break. However, we didn't do too good at the break itself. So we kind of continued talking. We continued seeing each other. We did both date. I didn't go on more than 2 dates with someone though, because everyone didn't really compare to him. And it actually wasn't until this past fall when we started to become more serious again in the fact that, we spent holidays with each other's family. We were planning to move in together at the start of this year. And we were kind of talking about the plans of the future even after my lease ended, which is going to be ending in July. And with our talks, we were kind of planning on moving back to where I grew up, which is on the complete other side of the country. I have made it very clear that I do not like it here. I haven't liked it here. I've lived here for 12 years. I've given it a fair shot, and that I didn't have any intention of settling down or raising a family here. And he always told me that he was kind of down to live wherever and kind of try anywhere out. So then kind of come back to our plans on moving to where I grew up, he was on board. We visited condos. He was like, I'm so down. Like, I love it here. We can give it a shot once your lease is up in July. And then we moved in together and made things official in January. We live together here. We've been living together here. From my perspective, things have been going great. And then kind of around March is when we started talking more about the plans of where we're going to live next again with the state that I grew up in. That's when he brought up that he wasn't down to move anymore, that he was like, I can't do this. This is, across the country. I can't be that far from my family. And as much as it devastated me, because this was kind of my ultimate dream, I understood that that's a lot to ask of someone to move across the country. So I'm like, okay, let's pivot. We kind of came up with a new plan to find a different state that's closer nearby, that is a little more like how I was raised and, what I prefer, but not obviously where we live now. So we kind of settled on staying in the state and moving kind of far away. And we were kind of excited about it. We sent each other houses, we sent each other apartments. Like, it all seemed like we were going in the right direction. And then 2 months ago, he mentioned this to his family. And it was almost like a night and day difference where he was like, he came back from hanging out with his family. He's like, I don't want to move at all. I want to stay here. I want to raise a family by my family and kind of all of that.
How old's your boyfriend?
He's 30 as well. I didn't handle it well, and I kind of broke up with him on the spot. Oh. And I was like, I'm so done. Like, you've gotten me all excited to finally move anywhere, and now you're just gonna completely say no. And then I had a day or two to think and reflect, and I came back to him and I apologized. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that was just a lot for me. Let's figure out a way to make this work for the both of us. So I kind of came up with as many compromises as I could think possible.
Okay. Kind of tough to compromise when you don't want to live there and he does.
Right. So I guess my compromises were kind of like, okay, we can just move for a year or two. I can at least get a change of scenery, and then we can come back. We could raise kids for the beginning here with your family, do all that. And then one day we can move again somewhere else. Another compromise I gave was we could live kind of both places. Maybe one day we could get a lake house somewhere. My biggest thing is that I feel like I need to be more connected to nature. And it got to the point where I was like, we can just stay here, but I need to go to nature more often. And the answer that he gave me was, that sounds like a lot of work. And that's kind of the predicament I've been in the past 2 months, is like, I feel like I'm the only one fighting and trying to give compromises and ways to make this work. And it seems like he just like changed his mind, and he's just like, no, my family means the most to me. Like, if we don't do it exactly my way, I'll be okay without you, is what it feels like.
What is he actually saying? Like, when you broke up with him, how did he handle that?
So he's not the best at, talking about his emotions. So he didn't say much. He just kind of went to his parents, and it's like I'm always kind of doing the talking, and he agrees a lot of the time, but he doesn't necessarily say exactly how he's feeling.
So how do you know how he feels?
Like, how do I know what he wants?
Yeah.
All he does tell me is that he wants to be close to his family.
Okay.
And I tell him, I'm like, well, do you want to be with me? And he says yes, but then I feel like his actions aren't necessarily adding up to that, considering it's like I feel like I'm the only one verbally fighting for us here.
Unfortunately, this is a potential non-negotiable for both of you.
Yeah.
Where you live and raise your family is a big deal, obviously. You don't need me to point that out to you. It's what you're fighting over with your partner.
Right.
It absolutely sucks that he made you feel like he was willing to move, only to realize that maybe he's not. But that wouldn't be the first time that's happened before. I just don't know if there's a compromise here, I guess is what I'm saying. And I get it. He came to you, was like, I can't do this. You freaked out, broke up, said, all right, I don't want to lose you. I know I was really mad. Let's try to figure it out, right? And like you said, it sounds like, it feels like you're the one who's trying to figure it out. But even your ideas, they're not, I say this with love, they're not the best ideas. I don't know if there's a solution to your problem. And like, what I mean by this is like, it's not really a compromise to be like, well, let's just move for a year and then we'll see. Well, okay. Because, deep down you're hoping, well, you can move. And then now like he has the upper hand because you're both in the city that he wants to be in. And moving sucks, just generally speaking. But if you were to get him to move for like just a year to see how it goes, well, then it's like deep down he knows that you'll have the upper hand there, because then, and like, that's not really a solution to like move and see. The reality is that you guys have very strong feelings about something you're not on the same page about, and you do need to get on the same page. One of you two is going to have to make that major compromise. One or two things are happening. Like you said, it started with, I feel like he's prioritizing his family over me. I wouldn't see it that way. He might be prioritizing his needs over yours.
Well, there's kind of more to it that I could probably add that would make a little more sense.
Go ahead.
So when he told, his family about all this is when kind of he made the 180. And I did find out that his mom was texting him, basically saying to him that she thinks that I might be emotionally manipulating him because I only want to do things like my way. I'm trying to pull him away from everyone he loves.
That's not that shocking, is it? I mean, like, listen, I don't
kind of understand because
I know nothing about his mom, or I barely know anything about you or your boyfriend, but like just my son's in love with a girl and all she wants to do is move. And how long have you been together with your boyfriend?
Like 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5, and so like she's been his mom for 30 years and she doesn't want to see her son move. And so she is definitely being selfish. And I'm just saying, like, it's not that shocking. Could she have gone about it in a better way? For sure. Yeah.
I think the thing I'm trying to figure out is if I could stay here, another big problem for me is the lack of boundaries. And I feel like maturity he has because of his family. And that's a whole nother part of this equation.
Oh, yeah. That was kind of my next question. It's just like, is your boyfriend making decisions for himself, or is he easily influenced by people?
He's really easily influenced. Like his brother and him, they basically tell each other what to do, and they do the same thing. They'll be like, I bought this office chair. You need to buy this office chair. And they'll like do it. And there have been a lot of red flags that have happened since living with him where he has put his family in front of us and there's been no boundaries. And that's been an issue with me. Like, I honestly do love them and I love hanging out with them. But do you want me to maybe give you an example of like the lack of boundaries?
Sure. Yeah.
It was his birthday weekend. We spent a lot of time with his family. And the next week I was like, hey, like, I feel like we've had a lot of time with your family. Like, I'd really just like to have a date, just the two of us to kind of reconnect, all that. And I'm like, why don't we go play pickleball? And he's like, great. So on our way to pickleball, which is in the neighborhood of his parents, the court, he's like, oh, can we stop at my parents really quick so I can grab something? I'm like, okay. So he goes and grabs something. And then next thing I know, the parents are coming along to pickleball. And he's like, oh, they're just going to hang out and do kind of their own thing. And then we get there. And next thing I know, like the dad is playing pickleball with him and I'm watching them play. And I'm just like, I literally communicated to you that this was supposed to be us. And now your parents are in the middle of our date.
What did he say?
Oh, well, they just wanted to hang out. We've been in couples therapy the past month. And he did like acknowledge like, okay, like, yeah, I need to maybe work on like boundaries when it comes to stuff like that. But I see it as an even deeper issue where they baby him so much that I just feel that he's lacking in a lot of like skills of being like a potential like husband and father because they're babying him, if that makes sense.
No, it does. But you kind of have to figure that out.
Right. So it's kind of like twofold. I'm like, does this sound like a lost cause, I guess? Like, are people able to kind of like grow up from their like deep attachment with their family if we're going to be living in the same city as them, potentially?
Potentially. Yeah. You guys are in couples therapy together, so that's a start. Did you have to drag him there?
I had to ask a few times and he was nervous. And then as soon as, we did the first session, now he's like on board with it,
well, that's
which
great.
I kind of knew was going to happen.
Okay.
But I guess it's like, how far do you go? Do I consider letting go of what I've always wanted for someone who's not making me feel like I don't even know how important I am to him right now, I guess?
I guess right now, yes, it's unclear whether this is your person.
Mm-hmm.
For one, you both want to end up at two different parts of the country. And that's not a small thing. People act like it is.
Two different parts of the state.
Well, that's the compromise,
Yeah, but I really do think I could be happy with it.
You do think, but you don't know because you've never lived there. You know where you would be happy.
Yeah.
Listen, Natalie moved to LA for me. She didn't move to LA for any other reason. And I don't think LA is her favorite city in the world. She's definitely making a sacrifice. And I think she's grown to like LA and it's our home and it's where we had our first daughter. And we are fortunately in a position where we can travel a lot and have been able to invest in other properties where we are from. So, yes, but at the same time, she's made a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Given our situation that made the most sense. I get your frustration. I get your frustration that it feels like almost like his mom made the decision for him about where he should end up. And it seems like his parents still have a lot of influence and the decision he makes for himself as a 30-year-old man, which is just kind of an ick in general. Like, because you can love your family and be there for your family, but like at some point you have to make decisions for yourself as an adult. Certainly it's great to consider your family and be there for your family, but like when it seems like mom's still making the decisions for you, yeah, that's a problem.
Right.
I'm guessing in couples therapy, this is a main topic?
Yeah, so we've really talked about the move a lot, but we are still only like 4 or 5 sessions in, so we're kind of unraveling a lot from our past as well right now too. Last session, he actually mentioned that he feels like he has commitment issues now to me because of the break.
That doesn't make sense.
Right. That's kind of how I feel. He's like, it was just really hard for me, the break. But I'm like, but I was completely honest with you and you agreed to it. And he's like, I understand that. But then in the same like next breath to the therapist, he's like, I don't know how I could consider marrying someone who kind of put me through this.
That's not great to hear. Because that's not what did your therapist say?
She kind of was like validating both of us, where she was like, I understand how that must have been really tough for you, but then also like you did agree to it. And that's kind of what my personal therapist has said too, is like, he was a big boy he could have said, like, I'm not going to talk to you if we're not going to be in a relationship. And like, he chose to keep talking throughout the whole thing.
He has the right to say, hey, can I be totally honest with you? That break that happened between us early in our relationship, I think it affects me more than I realize. And I'd like to talk about that because I think I have some like residual, like bad taste in my mouth. You know, I feel like I never really spoke up, and I think it affected some trust issues, and I'd like to work on that. You know, that would be fair.
Right.
To say, I don't know if I can marry someone who did that to me, that just sounds like a venting session or an excuse or him trying to come up with reasons for why he should end the relationship. To be honest, that's how it sounds.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
it's like, what does he want to do? Like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to fix it? I'm like, yeah, I did that. We did that. But like, what, you know, I don't know if I could be with someone who did that to me. It's like, okay. Did what?
Yeah. And he's yet to say, I want to make this work. Like, can you please like stay here? Or like, can we do like just not like there's been no kind of a statement of that. And then he says stuff like that in therapy. And then the next day he's like all over me. And like, I swear to God, it's like this man would propose to me is how I feel when I'm with him. Like back a couple months ago, he would always fake propose to me. He would like point to my ring finger in front of my mom, like all these things that made me think that we were farther along than like what he seems like he is now. And it's just like, am I crazy to stay here for this guy?
Yeah, I mean, you are describing a kind of emotionally immature person. I don't know if that's who he actually is, but
yeah,
there's some definite red flags here. There's some definite red flags, you know. The one being is just like I wrote in my book, it's just like, listen, like you have to understand the difference between non-negotiables and pet peeves. For example, a difference in religion is a non-negotiable, potentially. You know, if you were a devout Catholic and he, or even just an evangelical Christian, which I know they're both Christian beliefs, but they can often be opposing beliefs. And if you were like, hey, I'm a devout Catholic, I need, you know, this really matters to me. And, you know, he could be like, oh yeah, I guess I don't really care about religion, you know, and then he decided he does. Like, it's how are you going to raise your kids? You know, that matters. And like, those are things that, you know, sometimes you just don't compromise on stuff like that. Sometimes you just realize that, you know, you're just on a different page. And as much as you might like each other and there's a lot of good in your relationship, but you're both not willing to budge on this topic. And you might have to break up over that. You know, living in a different, wanting to live in a different part of the world, you know, hard to compromise on that.
And you think somewhere just like 7 hours away is a lot?
It's not for me to say.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I'm saying? What's 7 hours? It's just more, yeah, he's not going to see his family as much. I don't know. Like, he could say the same thing back to you. Like, can't you just go up to, you know, it's only 7 hours away. Just go to the woods up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't you just live here and we can just vacation there every once in a while? It's just like, why would we go to a place where none of our families are? My family's here at least. You know, he could say that to you, you know, and he wouldn't be crazy for saying it. I don't think like that's really your big problem. Your big problem is just like, he seems like you're dating a guy who is still very much, you know, reliant on, he's not making decisions for himself. And he also doesn't seem to be consistent with his communication.
Yeah, that's why I'm having the issue making the sacrifice for exactly that reason, I think.
And it feels to you right now that you are trying to do a lot of the saving or the mending of the problems in the relationship. And all he is doing right now is kind of like being willing to go along, which can get frustrating at times.
Yeah.
Have you ever asked him? Like, it's just like, hey, listen, like, I mean, like, have you asked him if he wants to be with you?
Yeah, I feel like I've like tried asking him everything, and he just is like.
And what did you say back to the accusation of your mom accusing you of being manipulative?
What did he say to her?
What did you say to him?
I said that it made me super uncomfortable because one, already kind of found out from someone else that he doesn't tell the full story, and that's why, sure. If I was his mom, I would think the same thing, because the way he's telling it to people is like, I'm just like, let's get up and move. Like, I need it my way, which like isn't what I'm doing here. I'm like, you told me for 7 months that we were going to do this, one. And then two, I'm coming up with all these compromises. And like, you're kind of making me look like I'm not here to compromise at all. And I just need things to go my way. So like, I have compassion and empathy for his mom, but at the same time,
it doesn't feel like compromise to her because you're just trying to think of anything to not live here. And all she cares about is him not moving, period. So,
right. And then there's like the other part of this where it's like, I kind of do want us to move a little bit away from his family, at least for a year or two, so he can grow up. But it's like, can I ask him to do that?
You can ask him anything you want. You know, it's just, is he willing to do it? But I don't think you getting him to move for a year is going to make him necessarily, because at the same time, you don't like, I'm guessing you don't want to be his mom either. And if your boyfriend really has some maturing to do in terms of being his own person and being his own man and making decisions for himself and then making decisions with his partner while still standing his ground and communicating, it's like, you don't even know for sure if in the 7 months of him agreeing to move with you, if he just didn't have the fucking balls to tell you that, he didn't really want to. And you have no idea for certainty if he's using his mom as an excuse. The same way you're frustrated with the stories, like the lack of stories he tells you, maybe the stories you hear are like, you know what I'm saying? Like that could be the situation too. Mm-hmm. And you need a partner who you feel like you're on the same page with, and he goes out of his way to be on the same page with you and vice versa. And if there is a point of disconnect, he can communicate that with you and you feel like it's coming from him, as opposed to from someone else.
Right.
And you don't really know. And he's not communicating with you on where this is coming from. And now he's just he's not even giving you the security of knowing he wants to be in this relationship. In fact, if anything, in couples therapy, he out of left field was kind of throwing criticisms and daggers that you really didn't know what to do with, because it's like, well, okay, how can I fix that? It's not like you got bored and was like, I want to fuck other people. You were like, hey, I'm struggling right now. I need some space. And then he agreed to it, and you guys got back together, and like, what were you supposed to do? And then he's saying things like, I don't know if I could date someone who did that to me. It's like, did what? Ask for space? And it's like, the only thing he's saying is, I don't know if I could be with you.
Right.
Not like, hey, I really want to figure out how to, at 30 years old, at 2.5 years in a relationship, what I'll say to you is it's more than fair for you to expect to be with someone who can say to you, listen, I want to be with you. I see a future with you, and I want to start talking about the type of life we want to build together. And I want to make you a priority, and I want you to feel like a priority to me, and vice versa. And if his family is a priority to him, which would be normal, and I'm sure you probably love that about him, he can say, listen, my family is a priority to me. My family is a priority to me. Natalie's family is a priority to her, maybe even in different ways, but we've communicated that. Now, that can mean a bunch of different things. If he's saying, well, listen, my family is a priority to me, and it's a priority that I live in the same city, well, that might be a problem. But like, your family can still be a priority to you, and you cannot live in the same city, type of thing. But like, I guess what I'm saying is his family can be a priority, and you can feel like you're still a bigger priority, but right now you don't. You don't know who's pulling the strings, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, even just like going on dates, like he doesn't plan dates for us, but then like every week he has plans with his family.
Who makes those plans?
That's something I don't know. I don't know if it's his brother or his dad, but every week he has plans to like go golf with his family and like go do this. And then there's been a few instances where we had plans and he will like offer, like, maybe we can cancel these plans a little bit because I want to stay with my family. And I'm just like, aren't I supposed to be the priority here?
Yeah, I mean, but you're not. You're not. So I would stop focusing on moving in couples therapy. I would focus more on his relationship with his family. And it's, it's like, hey, listen, I don't want to sound like the person who wants to come between him and his family. I'm assuming that's the case. Where like, I'm not some person who needs to be someone's only priority, and I'm not trying to control him. In fact, I love that he's close with his family, but at the same time, just giving you an example, therapist, like you gave me, it's just like, what I don't want to happen is to ask my boyfriend for some quality time, suggest a pickleball date, and it turns into him playing pickleball with his dad and me watching. And that's a fairly common occurrence. Like, maybe not the pickleball specifically, but the fact that like he seems very committed to always being around his family. And it's gotten to the point where I don't want to feel like I'm annoyed by his family, but there's like, it's just a lot. It's a lot. And I think that's something you can say, because that's a lot to say. And you say that in couples therapy so that like when he eventually gets triggered by what you say, hopefully your therapist can talk him off the ledge. And you could say like, sometimes I don't know if it's like if he's making the decision or the decision's coming from mom and dad. And at the same time, if I want to be in a relationship with someone who we can make decisions together, I don't want to make a decision with my partner and have to make sure it gets green light by his parents.
But that's a fair thing to ask of him, right? Like,
yeah, it's also like a fair thing to realize that maybe just to be totally honest with you, like what you're describing, I don't think is going to change overnight.
So you're kind of saying, unless I want to go hang out with his parents once a week and have this be a long road of him finding his independence,
does he want to find his independence?
Sign up for this anymore.
Does he want to?
I don't think so. And I think that's why he wants to stay here, because he's never lived away from his family. Even when he went to college with his brother. So he has this like safe bubble, and like he doesn't spend a lot of time by himself. I'm a wedding photographer, and every time I have a wedding, I'm like, "Oh, what are you going to do?" He's like, "I'm going to go to my parents." Like every time. And I'm just like, "Do you ever do anything by yourself?"
Maybe you're just not that compatible.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like maybe there's someone for him that wants to go to his parents twice a week and is okay staying in this bubble.
Maybe.
But I'm like, is it not fair to ask him to get out of his bubble?
You can certainly ask.
Or is it unreasonable, I guess?
No, it's not unreasonable. It might be more unrealistic for you to hope that it actually happens. It's more than reasonable.
Yeah.
It's more than fair. If I were a betting man, I would bet against it.
Okay. And if you were me at 30 years old, what would you do?
Yeah, listen, without knowing a lot about him or the dynamic, I would focus on couples therapy. When you guys go to couples therapy, which I would still continue to go with him, I would take advantage of the fact that he's willing. Talk to him in couples therapy. I love you. And if I had it my way today, I want to figure out a way that we can be together forever. But I'm starting to be more honest with myself about if that's even possible. Because as much as I love you, I'm concerned about us, how compatible we are. And then you can explain why. And it's just like, I don't want to feel like I'm constantly coming in between your family. And while family is important to me, it seems to be more of a priority for you. And I want someone who has a little bit more independence from their family. Hanging out with your parents multiple times a week, for me, is a lot. And I'm not, you're not trying to judge them, but it's just more like, it's hard for me. And I don't want to feel like I'm pulling you away when I want to consider the moving thing is like a whole, to me, that's like, God, you guys are so far away from that.
Our lease is up in July, so we have to figure out where we're moving in the next month.
Yeah, but that's,
or whether we're staying together.
But that's the thing. Like what's, listen, your lease is up in July, like you said. Are you gonna in a month decide to move across, like, can you sign a month to month? I don't know.
I guess the way I was planning on it was that I was just going to keep going to couples therapy. I was going to kind of put the ball in his court. And if,
what do you mean by the ball in his court?
He's like, I still don't know.
Well, I don't know if he's the type of person you want to put the ball in his court. He's not exactly Mr. Decision Maker.
Well, I think more of like, if he is going to decide that he wants to try and make it work with me, that part I kind of was gonna hope to put in his court. And if he's still like, I don't know if we're gonna be together, I don't know, whatever, then that's just kind of where I draw the line. I just want to feel like he 100% is choosing me.
Yeah, so say that to him in couples therapy. But I wouldn't put the ball in his court. You need to decide. I want you to make the decision whether you think you're compatible. But you have to like consider who he is and what he wants. But I want it to be your decision, not his. I want him to make the decision with you. You know what I'm saying? I guess I
think I could make it work. I just feel like I need to hear him that he really loves me and wants to be with me, and I haven't heard that. And that
matters. But also more than
everything.
More than the words of affirmation saying he wants to be with you, I'm guessing you also need to see his ability to make you feel like a priority, to not always feel like your second choice to his family. And that matters. And you're right. It's a normal feeling to want to have, and you deserve to have that. And maybe that's not him. Not everyone is interested in that. And yeah, he might find someone who like loves how close he is with his family, and maybe always wanted a family as close with his because they never had one. And so they just fucking love it. But that's not you. And that doesn't make that, and that's okay. And I couldn't do that. That's not for me. Both Nally and I love each other's families, and we feel both lucky to have the families that we have and the in-laws that we have. But neither of us would be interested in having that much dependency with both of our families. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it would be a lot. There are times where like Nally's mom's been super helpful with the baby, and she's been living with us, and it's great. And my parents are up at the lake, and we like to go to the lake, and we spend a lot of time with our families there, but like that's different than every week and multiple times a week.
Yeah.
It's not if, but okay, when are your parents going to be here? And like always checking in with mom and dad, and almost getting permission from mom and dad at 30 years old. That would drive me fucking nuts. And it would drive Nally nuts. You're not alone. So
that's validating to hear, because that's how I feel.
But yeah, it sounds to me like he is he needs to grow up. He's not the best communicator. I almost feel like his parents are getting a little bit more of the blame than they deserve. At the end of the day, he is a man who has to decide for himself what he wants. And like you even said, you can understand why his parents want to stay close to their son. He needs to say, I want to leave the nest, so to speak. I want to spread my wings. I want to be my own person. And a lot of parents are resistant to that. I guess I was fortunate enough, my parents, to see the big picture and selflessly know that they wanted me to stay there, but I deserve to live my own life for myself and make my own decisions. But not every parent is like that. And like you said, you want to be chosen, and right now he's not. Right now he's looking for a girlfriend to accommodate his life needs and work around his family dynamic. And there are plenty of times where especially now, because she's my wife, where Nally is my family, and he is not interested in seeing that. You want to marry someone who, when they become your husband, that's his family. That's his immediate family.
Exactly.
And yeah, he's close with mom and dad, and they're there and they visit, and there's a bond there. But when he says his family, he doesn't think of mom and dad and his brother. He thinks of his wife and his kids.
I mean, everything you're saying is exactly how I'm feeling. So
I think you have some tough choices to make, and I think you have to consider the possibility that he's not your guy, and maybe you're just not compatible. There's a lot of love there. He seems like a good guy, but like calmly in couples therapy suggests the possibility that you two aren't right for each other. And if you don't see him squirm or fight or get anxious, then you'll have your answer.
Okay.
If he's like, yeah, maybe we're not, then, then I think just move on.
Okay.
If the possibility of you like getting your independence and saying, as much as I love you, I feel like we're just being pulled in different directions, and I feel like we maybe want different things, and it makes me really sad. And you could say, hell, I would even consider living here, even though I don't want to, because I love you, but I also don't want to make such a sacrifice only to feel like I'm still second tier priority to your family. And I don't feel like I'm wrong for saying that. If that doesn't make him go, wait, well, hold on, I really want to fix this, and oh my God, then I think you have your answer.
I think that is what's going to happen. I think he's just going to be quiet.
Well, there you go. Maybe you already know the answer.
Because that's what he always does.
Well, don't take a lot of time figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, I only have a month, so I'm going to have to move eventually. So
all right. Well, you're still
I have couples therapy in an hour.
There you go. All right, good luck. Grease the skids. You're only 30. Just remember that. I know that maybe for you that sounds different than when I say it, but
yeah, it's tough.
It's tough, but you'll survive this, I promise, if you decide to move on.
Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Please keep us posted what you decide to do.
I definitely will.
All right, take care. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.